Hi, this is J.R. Burnett, Clubhouse Manager at Hillcrest Country Club, here today with my daughter Henley to show you an etiquette video on the proper way to set a table. This can be utilized for any big special event. We have Mother's Day upcoming soon. Hopefully we'll be able to be back at the club for Mother's Day, but if not, this would be a great way for kids out there to show your mom you care by setting the table properly for dinner. As you can see here, we have our table ready to be set. And I'm going to show you what typically happens at our house when we set our table for dinner. Henley, if you would, please, set the table. All right, as you can see, this is a typical dinner setup for the Burnett family. My daughter Henley did a great job with this. We're gonna just show a little bit more on what you can do to properly set a table. Stay tuned. As you can see here, we have our tablecloth. Thing about tablecloths you wanna keep in mind is that they all have a seam on them. And when you're setting a table, you wanna make sure that that seam is facing down on the table. You don't want your seam to be up, because that looks unsightly. Down is the way to go. That way it looks like a clean, complete table. So here, we're gonna set the table, Henley. When you get to this point, you wanna make sure that you have enough of the tablecloth on each side of the table so there's no weird overlap hanging or any underlap hanging where it's too short on one side. With the chairs, how you wanna position them is when you come up to the chair, you just want them to barely be touching the tablecloth. You should always have your chairs pulled out just slightly. Do you want to fix the chairs on that side, Henley? So they're just touching the tablecloth? There you go. Here. We've got a close-up shot of our table. Right here is actually the edge of our table, just to kind of give you a reference as to where we're at. When you're setting a table, one thing you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're inside the chair. Whether you have arms on your chair or not, that would be great, because if you have arms, you're going to start setting your silverware just inside the arms on each side. That's very helpful for referencing where to put the silverware down. Again, when we set the silverware too, we want to make sure that's perpendicular to the back of the chair. So if we take our knife, for example, and we set it down here, that a straight line would go to the back of the chair. So that's very helpful when you're trying to set a table. So first thing I'm going to have Henley start doing for me with regards to our silverware is we want to polish our silverware. So basically you're just going to take a wet linen napkin like what we have here and just give it a quick polish up and down. That way you get all the spots off and things like that that sometimes gets left over from washing, and then you're ready to go. So Henley, if you would, go ahead and polish our silverware for us while I go through the napkin demonstration. So as you see here, I have a napkin, and I'm just going to show you a basic fold that we utilize at the club all the time. It's also called a tent fold. If you'd like to use this at home, it's very simple. You're going to lay your napkin down flat. Again, I start the napkin with seams up. And I always said with the tablecloth, you want to make sure your seams are down, as you see here. But with the napkin, you want to start with your seams up. That way when you're done folding your napkin, the seams will actually be down, if that makes sense. So start at one corner, we're gonna fold it in half to the other corner. So we make a triangle out of this. And then we're gonna take this corner, fold it in, and this corner over here and fold it in. So now we're back to a diamond pattern. From here, we're gonna grab these edges. Thank you, ma'am. We're gonna flip it up like so and lay it back down. So now we've created another triangle. And then one more fold like so to complete our triangle tent fold. When you set it down, you're going to set it down directly in the center of the table. By the center of the table, I mean the center of the seat where everyone will be sat. And that way it kind of gives you more of a reference. And then when you set this down, you're going to just fold out these edges. Gives you a nice clean look. And as you can see, like I mentioned before, our seams are all now down, as opposed to them being out or up. Okay, Henley's got me a bunch of silverware polish, so we're gonna start going through the motion of setting the table. So I started with the knife. We have the knife here. It always goes on the inside of the spoon, which would be the next piece of utensil I want to set. Oh, you haven't polished that one? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll wait till she gets that polished. When you're setting the utensils, you want to make sure that you're giving it about a fingernail width from the edge of the table. Now me, I just prefer to use my thumb, and that way you can see we're a fingernail from the edge of the table. What this does is it helps straighten your silverware across the bottom so that everything is lined up perfectly. And you don't have silverware out here in no man's land, as I like to call it. All right, Henley finished our silverware, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you the placement of the spoon. It goes directly next to the knife. Again, I'm inside my chair. We have our entree fork. And then we have our salad fork. And how you can tell the difference between the two, the salad fork's always gonna be a little bit shorter. On the tines, on these outer tines, you might have a little cut in them, which is helpful for sticking the salad on the fork. So sometimes you'll see that as well too on your salad fork utensils. But the salad fork is always gonna be a little bit smaller than the entree fork. And then you have the nice staggered look on your place setting as you go along. Final thing we're gonna do today is we're gonna also set our dessert utensils. Now with dessert, you wanna make sure too that you're also using a salad fork. That's typically what we utilize for all dessert settings. When you set it down, it's gonna go above the napkin, like so. And it's gonna be this direction with the tines facing towards the knife. Reason for that is when we are done with our salad, done with our entree, these utensils will be gone. And then it's just easy to position the salad fork, which is gonna be used for dessert now, where it needs to go. So again, we have this all set like so. And then our spoon, in case we do have the need for dessert that needs a spoon as well too, we're gonna place it above the fork facing the opposite direction. Again, the thought process there is so when you're ready for dessert, you can just pull it straight down and have it be right there ready to go for dessert. Final little piece that we're gonna get, you wanna get the bread and butter plate? Okay, is our bread and butter plate. And this is gonna go directly above the forks, is where we like to set this. So now you have your bread and butter ready to go. So when you're passing that around, you can put your roll or whatever you're utilizing right here on the plate. Our glassware is the next and last piece of this puzzle we're gonna show you. When you're doing your water glasses, you wanna make sure that you set it directly above the knife, excuse me. That's where your water glass should be set. And then also for wine, any type of wine service that you're gonna have with dinner, you wanna use a stem glass, obviously. And again, we give this a little polish. So you're gonna take your napkin, give this a little polish, make sure everything's good. You always wanna make sure too that you're holding the stemware by the stem. That's what the stem is for. You don't wanna hold it up here because that's where people's mouths go. So when you're setting the table, it's very important to make sure you're holding it at the lowest point that you possibly can. Same with the water glass. You don't want to hold it up here or set it down like this because you don't know where your hands have been. And if you don't have clean hands, you don't want people to be drinking water directly where your hands have touched. Especially right now with our current pandemic we're facing, it's very important. Low to the glass. So when we set the stemware, you're going to go towards the center of the table like so. I'm above the water glass, but I'm inside the water glass on a diagonal. And then from here, if we had another course of wine that we're gonna be pouring, we would set that next glass inside it like so. And so on and so forth till you reach the end of however many courses you're doing with wine. So here's a pretty basic setup for a 3-course meal. As you can tell, it's pretty simple to put together. A lot of things involved with the etiquette of it though. And once you understand the etiquette of it, it's gonna go a long way to help showcasing your tables at events, private parties you want to host at your house, and any other special occasion you'd like to utilize this for.